Thank you so much for listening to the Spooky Door podcast. Before we begin this episode, we just want to say that you can now watch our episodes and not just listen to them.
That's right. We're now uploading all our episodes with video content onto our YouTube channel with lots of various topics, such as top 10s and more.
Of course, we will always maintain our audio form, but now you can watch the episodes.
If there is any subject or topic you'd like us to cover, please let us know. Check out thespookydoor.com or search for the Spooky Door Podcast on YouTube.
As always, thank you so much for being a listener, and we appreciate all the support.
Venture into the shadows with hosts Jordan and Ashley as they peel back the veil to reveal in-depth images into a different realm. One of strange events, places, occurrences, phenomena, and sometimes even horror. Join them as they journey through the spooky door.
Welcome to the Spooky Door podcast. We cover all things weird and eccentric and also paranormal. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, my co-host, Ashley.
Hello.
And then today's guest, we have a very special guest, actually, is Drew Smith. Drew has a lifetime interest in the esoteric and occult philosophy. He's been a seeker since his teen years and says that his practice can be politely called eclectic. He's also a musician and fronts the blues punk band Phantom Ocean and the punk rock band Hidden Knives. Hey, Drew, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Drew is also, you're in Massachusetts, right?
Yep. Live in Massachusetts, about an hour from Boston.
Starting off, what's some of your earliest experience to get you started with everything?
So, when I was young, first of all, I would absolutely swear to you that the house that I grew up in was haunted by something. I would definitely see an apparition around sometimes in the little house that I grew up in. And the library that I had in my small town that I grew up in New Jersey, had actually a surprisingly decent collection of books on the occult. I've still got one of them on my shelf because I accidentally stole it from the library.
Oops.
Which book is that?
It is a Golden Dawn Guide to Divination.
Well, if there's any libraries out there that are looking for it, you know where it's
right.
at
They
now.
are going to be
they
are going to be vengefully coming at me. Just made an enemy of every librarian I know.
Every single one.
So
yeah.
So you said the house you grew up in was haunted. Like, what would happen?
You would just, doors closing on their own when there wasn't any wind, blow them open or closed, when like the windows were closed. And yeah, just every once in a while I'd see, an apparition. The basement was, especially spooky for no good reason. You would occasionally see somebody pass through the hall and then, you'd look and there wasn't somebody there.
It was always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I grew up in a fairly religious house, which is how I ended up accidentally taking that book, is I had to absolutely hide it. And then I turned around 3 months later and went, oh, no, that's where I hid that.
So was that what kind of got you started into the occult?
Yeah, that's really what got me interested. I feel like I was always a weird kid. I feel like that's kind of a commonality among a lot of us that, get into the occult, right?
Yeah.
Is
Right.
that we were all kind of weird kids.
Yeah. I would say like anyone who's like into occult or paranormal in general probably had something starting off when they're young, and then you just, like you said, you go to the library, get a book, and it just kind of starts from there.
And we're also giant weirdos.
Yeah.
So you almost wonder if that's what made us all weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it we're weirdos because we experienced something, or
We experienced
we're
some
weirdos
things.
so we experience something?
I think for me, like the very, very first book I ever picked up was like, I was really young. I went to the library and I think it was like a book on dreams, and that was kind of like my gateway.
So mine was really similar though. They had remember, because the way where I'm from, the way the elementary schools were set up was you would do like, I think it was like kindergarten through like third grade at one elementary school, and then you do like fourth to sixth grade at a different one. And so the second elementary school, the library had like books like supernatural ghosts and ghost stories, and one on the Mothman that both like, first it started, my sister's older and she would rent them and bring them home, and I would read them. And then when I got into that school, then I was bringing them home, and it was just repetitively the same books.
Your school was way cooler than mine. My school didn't have any of that type of stuff.
Seriously, your school was way cool.
We did. We absolutely did.
I feel like that's kind of a commonality for me too, is especially, and I mean, I know every place has its folklore, but growing up in New Jersey, we're lousy with folklore because, Revolutionary War before, literally New Jersey, was settled before we were a country. So there's stories stretching all the way back to the 1600s. There's the Jersey Devil, which is, probably the most famous one. But I mean, New Jersey is
the New Jersey
a state that is just lousy with legends all over the place. I mean, the Gates of Hell, Clinton Road, Shades of Death Road, the Jackson Whites up in the mountains.
Yeah.
All of the Pine Barrens.
So, like, where you are, do people talk about, like, the New Jersey Devil often at all? Or is that just kind of one of those, it's like Mothman where people are just like, okay, yeah, it was a thing. And
it happened, whatever.
Right, yeah.
I feel like I'm maybe not the best gauge for that because, like, it was definitely a subject that came up among, like, my friends when I was younger. But I was also friends with the weird kids.
Right.
So
maybe
we were all fascinated by that. Yeah, it's much more like, I think, the Mothman, where it's like, yeah, that's a thing and it happened, maybe, or, Also, like, the Pine Barrens aren't, depending on what part of the Pine Barrens you're in, are not super populated.
So what's the Pine Barrens?
The Pine Barrens is a stretch of land, and I am absolutely being that guy right now and, looking up just how big they are. It's a coastal pine barren in New Jersey. It stretches across 7 counties.
Oh my God.
So it's this gigantic.
What's it called again? Because I'm also going to be that guy and Google it on my laptop.
The Pine Barrens. And it's, they stretch throughout the state. It's where the Jersey Devil is supposed to live. There's a bunch of other spooky legends from in there, like, the Blue Hole of New Jersey and things like that. And all of those legends really, really fascinated me when I was younger.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, actually. And it's massive.
It's
huge.
massive. It's massive, and parts of it are very green, and then parts of it are very, very spooky. I remember being in an old band one day. We were on tour, and we were driving through part of the Pine Barrens, and my bandmate looked at me, and he just went, I feel like we could drive like 30 miles and not see anybody. And I'm like, you are absolutely correct.
I feel like it says something that when I Googled Pine Barrens, it suggested that maybe I meant creepy New Jersey Pine Barrens.
That's
fabulous.
Sums it up right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what makes them so creepy other than it's so vast? Is it like having, I'm sure it has urban legends galore and stuff.
Oh, it has tons of urban legends. It has absolutely, I mean, as any place is, it ends up being the site of some deaths. Some bodies get dumped there. And also it's a very liminal space depending on what time of day you're there. Like, driving through the Pine Barrens at dusk, for me at least, very much felt like this is not normal reality anymore. Like, you're in a place where you can drive for, again, like 20, 30 minutes and sometimes and not see another car on the road.
That's
like
crazy.
You're going through these twisting back roads sometimes, and you'll see like a house or like some trailers or some cars, but that's it. You're not seeing other people. And especially in New Jersey, which is the most densely populated state in the country.
Right.
That's weird.
That is, man, that's crazy. Cause I just can't imagine like how vast. Like, I saw a picture. It's just like an ocean of trees.
It says there's like not one, but like multiple like abandoned towns in it.
Yep.
Not just one abandoned town, multiple abandoned towns.
There are multiple.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, It's a lot.
Dude.
There's a lot of space there, and there is a lot of, potential there, at least, in your head. And you're driving through, and again, your brain starts thinking in like this liminal space, this place that is not normal reality.
Yeah, just Googling it, all it does is pop up all kinds of like websites on creepy stuff and like that. There's not like, oh, visit visit this forest and this national park. It's just like, no, it's all this creepy crap.
Yeah, and I
It's
actually
like,
I'm on Wikipedia, and it's actually there's a list of how many towns are included in this area, Jordan. And I'm just gonna let you glance at this. This isn't the whole screen.
What?
But that's
There's
only
like
a portion
50
of
towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How? It's usually like a town or two located. God, that must be a massive amount of land.
Oh, it's huge. The closest I've come in Massachusetts to being in a place that reminds me of it is the Bridgewater Triangle.
What is that?
The Bridgewater Triangle is an area that around Fall River that is about 200 square miles, and it's the site of a lot of alleged paranormal phenomena, UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, Thunderbirds, and it is, it's a creepy place. Profile Rock is a spot. We actually hiked through Freetown Fall River State Forest the day after our honeymoon, and we took a lot of pictures on disposable cameras, and unfortunately the film development place, I think, lost all of them.
Oh no.
Yeah. Not that I was expecting to get much, but still.
That's the second story we've had on this podcast about someone losing their camera.
Do you think maybe people are really losing their cameras? Are like, there's people out there that are like, man, these are some cool pictures. I'm just gonna keep them.
Nah, I don't think so.
Who knows?
But no, that's the only place I love places like that where you're further away. And I say this, I love modern life. I love people, but I like being able to go to places where you are not surrounded by people, because I feel like unplugging and being in those kind of liminal spaces is such a magical experience. I feel like it's really grounding, and it really helps you, get your feet back under you.
Right. Even me, I haven't gone in a while, but I enjoy going hiking and all that stuff. Just, getting away, getting some fresh air.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a park not too far away from here. It's about 15-20 minutes away, and inside there is a small little cemetery, about 5 headstones of like the original like people who lived there from like the 18th century, and they like boarded it off, and they have like a little plaque and stuff inside this like huge park.
Nice.
Yeah, it's I really enjoy going there, and also like there you see there's a lot of bald eagle sightings too in that area too. So
nice.
Yeah. So that place like goes for my creepiness and also my love of nature. So like, yeah, it works both ways for me.
Yeah. I love when you see cemeteries in weird places that they're not, that your brain goes, that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, time though, it's like, what was there like way before everything though? It probably made sense at the time.
Yeah, but it also makes me wonder too, like in that sense, like what the land looked like when those first were put down. Like, massive difference.
Yeah.
There is one that's on the highway up to, as we're driving from where we live in Massachusetts to Portland, Maine. There's a spot on the highway that you just pass, and it's a highway, so you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
You pass a little cemetery, and it was clearly somebody's like family cemetery, and nope, that's where it is. It's fenced off. The highway has not encroached on it. That's just where it is. There's one in Seabrook, New Hampshire, which is over the border from where we live.
Well,
and it's this little family cemetery next to a furniture store.
Well, in some cases, it's easier just to build around it than to like exhume everything, move the headstones, replant it, and then like do all that work than just well, we can just work around that and just leave it where it is. It's like the same time
Yeah.
they build around massive, these huge trees. Sometimes stuff will get built around that, and you'll be like, okay, because it's just easier to build around it than to remove it.
And I do like to think that we've all learned a lesson from Poltergeist at this point, right?
Right.
Not to build directly over it.
Well, in Poltergeist, it wasn't the fact that they built over a cemetery; it was the fact that they didn't remove the bodies.
Yeah, they moved the headstones. They didn't move the bodies.
Which is the famous.
I like to think we've all learned from that.
Yeah,
Like, all right, we either move the bodies or we don't move anything.
That's the famous quote. You move the bodies, you move the headstones, but not the bodies.
My favorite thing about that is, you remember the scene in that where the coffins come up and the bodies come out?
Yes.
That's actually what I'm mentally picturing as you guys are talking about this.
Yeah. Is that apparently, I guess, those were real bodies?
What?
Yep.
What?
I've heard this
Yeah.
too. I have heard this too.
Sounds like an urban legend.
No, because it's so much cheaper to get real ones than to have good-looking fake ones made. And I'm just like,
Right, and there's a whole
did you
story.
not read the script?
But there's a whole story behind like the series too that that was cursed and stuff. So
Right.
you almost
Yup.
wonder.
Well, the little girl died.
Yeah.
Little girl died. Dominic Dunn died.
Picking up some bad juju from the bodies.
I love that.
Yeah, the older sister was murdered in that movie, right?
Yes.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, she was murdered by her boyfriend.
Wow.
Which makes watching
So
knowing all this stuff makes watching that movie like even creepier.
Yeah.
I feel like.
So the movie is sounds like the movie is cursed, or at least when they made it was cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with The Exorcist. They had tons of horrible things happen on the set of Exorcist.
Oh god, yeah.
To the point where they had a priest come in every other week to bless the set. Because
Yup.
I feel like you would have to.
horrible
that,
things just kept happening. It's like, jeez. And then you got the movie The Witch, and they had absolutely nothing happen. They went to the director and they're like, "Is anything weird happen?" And said, "No, man, everything was fine."
Nope. No, it's all very nice actually.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this movie deals with Satan, and it's like, no, it's satanic worship, and it's like, yeah, no problem. We had no problems at all.
Great here.
Yeah.
So, getting a little back on track. So what got you really into occult and start practicing more into, and start building up your, I guess, your eclectic mix of beliefs and systems that you do?
So I'd say probably the thing that did it the most for me was it was a 1-2 punch. It was I discovered Chaos Magick through Peter Carroll and especially Phil Hines' book Condensed Chaos. And again, to a lesser extent, Libernal and Psychonaut from Peter Carroll. And so I started reading about that stream of it. And at almost the same time, I discovered The Matrix, which led me to The Invisibles. So again, into that Chaos Magic current.
Mm-hmm.
And then not too long after that, the DisinfoCon speech that Grant Morrison, the author of The Invisibles, gave, if you've ever gotten to see that.
No, I haven't seen that.
No.
It is 45 minutes of him talking about sigil magic, chaos magic, other things, and he just starts it off with this primal scream. And so, I was like...
I love Grant Morrison. Yeah, that guy's crazy.
They are... Because it's actually they, them now. They're non-binary.
Oh, okay.
So I think I might have dropped the wrong pronoun there too, but mistakes are made. But no, they're wonderful. They are, super influential on me and my approach to art, my approach to kind of everything. And so I started experimenting with sigils, and that got me, I started seeing actual success with that where, previous stuff that I had seen had been okay, I'm reading tarot cards and I'm getting okay at it. And, but this is hard.
Yeah.
And so essentially turbo boosted approach to magic worked very well when I was a teenager, which is what Chaos Magic was for me, was okay, cool.
Yeah. Explain
do these things.
Explain Chaos Magic real quick. Go ahead and explain it, at least your interpretation of it.
Okay, Chaos Magic is ideally, and I say this just for me, Chaos Magic is magic without kind of the shackles of sticking to rote interpretations of things. We do this because we've always done it like this. Being willing and able to change paradigms. For me, a lot of it is being able to admit when I'm wrong about something. And, for me especially, it's I keep pretty rigorous notes on things that I do, and I've gotten more and more unflinching about, looking at what I'm doing and being like, I failed at that.
Yeah.
Like, I have workings in my journals that I go through, and I'm like, yep, that was an utter fucking failure of a thing that I did. But what can I learn from this?
Right.
Yeah, like things that just did not pay off at all. Like I did this, what did I do wrong? And I always describe my kind of view of magic as, one, it is tilting the scales a little bit, because I've had friends who are skeptics be like, oh, why don't you just, do it to, win the lottery? And I'm like,
that's not,
because if I improve my odds from 1 in 50 million to, let's say I'm amazing at this, 1 in a million, congratulations, I've still got a 1 in a million shot.
Right.
I'm probably not winning.
On top of that, it's not really the way it works or is designed to work either. For me, from my personal experiences with anything based around magic, it's all about, improving yourself or improving like the things around you. It's not about, there might be a little bit of personal gain, like, oh, I want, I'm putting my intuition in this because I want this new job, or, I want this or whatever. But it's not like, I don't see it being something where I think like, I'm going to cast this spell and do all this stuff so I can win the lottery. It's like, that's not how this works.
I also think too, with that being said, it's one of those things too, like it's more so about doing what you're feeling at that time. And there's no like step-by-step instruction booklet as far as like, this is what you're supposed to do to get to A, B, and C.
Well, and I mean, I personally, for me, I went through that, that whole thing of like, I don't do this for, personal gain. And, it's the weird thing of, there's various reality tunnels and paradigms that you go through. And Jordan, you and I both come from a really strong punk rock background and
right.
DIY and that. And you get those people that are like, nah, I don't care about like, material gain. And, that's fine. Like, people say that all the time. And I've noticed that a lot of the people that say that are then very mad that they don't have material gain.
Yes.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Definitely.
And like for me personally, I'm like, no, I don't see something wrong with being prosperous and being, I don't see something wrong with being able to look at my bank account and not mutter, ah, shit, when bills come in at the end of the month. Like I can look at my mortgage payment and go, okay, cool, that's just automated, and I don't really worry about it.
And that doesn't even come down to like magic or belief systems too. I mean, like, people who have other faiths will like pray and be like, okay, I want to be better. I want to be able to pay for these things. I don't want to be stressed out about my day-to-day life or my bills. And they'll pray to whatever god or deity. Or someone who may just be an atheist, like, man, I just really wish like something would happen so this would be better. Or I'm really hoping like, things just start working out better for me. It's like you're just putting that energy out there. Like, I just, it's like it's not saying I want this or I need this. It's just like I hope this may happen. It's kind of that kind of thing.
Well, and that's my thing with magic is I think that magic is will directed at things, and I don't think that having a will of I would like to be financially secure and not worry about these things is a bad thing. I don't think it's immoral. I think it becomes immoral once you start essentially turning into a dragon and hoarding it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's that way with any resource.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think it makes you like snooty or materialistic in any sense. It's just you're responsible and you want to be able to take care of yourself. Like you should be.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there's, for me, the idea of magic is twofold. One is that you use what works, and I don't think that what works for one person is going to work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know people that are practitioners who are like, sigils have never worked for me. And similarly, I know people that are like, ritual work, gives me absolutely no feeling. I'm like, that's fine. Like, you do whatever works for you, and I don't think it's the same for everybody at all. And also, I think intention is super important. I think that, for instance, like we were just talking about, Jordan, with, the punk rock background, you meet a lot of, punk rock guys who are like, nah, money doesn't matter to me. And, I hate thinking about money. And, well, if you hate thinking about and dealing with money, then it's always going to be a problem for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
then these are also the guys who are complaining and then like bumming money on the streets.
Yeah.
Right.
With their acoustic guitar, trying to fill their guitar case up with money because they're like, fuck the man. It's like, well,
yeah, or not even that.
I can't get a corporate job.
I used to be one of those guys, not playing the acoustic guitar, but like every month there seemed to be like money problems. And the thing that I was thinking about recently is not that like my job prospects have massively improved as I've gotten older. I mean, they have. I enjoy my job now, and it provides me a lot of freedom to make music and all that. But one of the things is that I started taking money seriously as an entity and as a thing to be respected and at least understood. And I'm not going to say that I never have times that I worry about money, but now I stop and, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm no longer... I couldn't tell you the last time that I did a sigil or a spell or anything like that for like, shit, I need $100 right now to cover XYZ thing. Which I used to do.
How they have earned
and
like that.
it would come to me in the most insane way. There was one time I literally walked into, I was like, shit, I need $100 to cover like the remainder of my rent. And I have $20. I had like $22. So enough to withdraw money and not close out my account in an ATM. Because I had a bank that you could only pull 20s from. And I swear to you, I walked into the ATM and I walked up to, there were two ATMs. And I walked to the far one. And it had one of those basin catches for the money. You know how it spits out the money versus like an extender? And there was $80 sitting in there.
Damn.
Like somebody had left 4 20s in the basin.
Oh my God.
And I looked around and I'm like, okay, there's no card in this thing. Like, there's nobody's around. I'm like, okay, the universe answered. And I pulled $20 out. And I picked up the $80 that was right there. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have $100.
This is just what I needed.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing is that my personal belief is that if you ask the universe for something and you apply your will and your intent to it, then the universe is going to give you that. Which is why I try very hard. People love to naysay, things like keeping a positive mental attitude and things like that, and I get that definitely New Thought can be a fraught and perilous subject as far as not just magic, but culture goes, because we've all seen those people that are toxic and spout, good vibes only.
For me, I'm a big person. I'm big into, the positive mental attitude. I think.
Yeah, same.
I'm like,
Yep.
That can like, I mean, people are really negative and they're like always complaining about stuff. I'm like, dude, you just have to like start thinking positive about things. Like, oh, that sounds so dumb and lame. I'm like, yeah, but you're miserable.
And I mean, that's not to say I never get stressed out about stuff, but yeah, you have to try.
Like, you really have to start thinking positively about things, or start like thinking like, you gotta change your way of thinking. If things are not working out at all, it's like maybe it's you.
I believe in PMA so much that I literally have it tattooed on my body. And if you want, I'll show you guys later because we're not on video chat, but I'll show you my PMA tattoo. It's on my arm so that I always have to look at it.
Yeah,
and
send it. We'll post it to our Instagram or whatever.
I'm not always perfect about it, but one of the things that I'm doing as part of my work this year is very much trying to be like, okay, reframe my past and not think about like I'll give you a perfect example. I was in a band that I very much enjoyed. That's how I know you, Jordan.
Right.
And it broke up 4 years ago this June. And I could sit there and I could be still bitter and angry and, all that, because I know guys that are like that about their past bands, and like past relationships. Or I can think about all the fun that I had, all the good people that I knew, and the songs that me and that guy made that I'm pretty happy with.
Right.
I could look at my life and think like right now and be like, I have this challenge and that challenge, or I could be like, you know what? I have a beautiful wife and this little asshole goblin cat that I love so much, and I'm in two very cool bands that I enjoy, and like my bills get paid. I kind of like my job, like not kind of. I enjoy my job. It's a pleasant job.
Are you still working? So wait, I wanted to cover this because I want to talk about your employment. Are you still being a youth pastor?
No.
Okay.
That's why we're confused.
I wanted to talk
are you
about
still-
this
are you-
because this confused the hell out of me. 'Cause you and I would always be talking about magic and all kinds of weird occult stuff, and we're like, "Oh yeah, I got a job as a youth pastor." I'm like, "What?"
I feel like that's
Can
gonna be
you-
a fun story.
Can you explain that real quick?
explain that so everyone knows?
Okay. I never got like the full gist of how this worked out anyway.
First of all, I'm gonna issue a slight correction. I wasn't a youth pastor. I was running a Sunday school program.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of coordination and a lot of staff and lesson planning. And two is that one, a lot of the magical work that I do does come through like the Western magical or Western mystery tradition, which filtered through things like Golden Dawn, Dion Fortune, which comes at things from essentially a very Christian worldview.
Yep.
I also grew up very Catholic, so I always like tell people, I'm like, you can take the boy out of the Catholic Church. You can't take the Catholic Church out of the boy.
Ashley's boyfriend always
phrasing.
Ashley's boyfriend always says he's a recovering Catholic.
Yeah.
That's how he works it.
Now, I mean, if I were going to pick any denomination now, I would probably say I'm probably closest to a Quaker.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah. Yeah, I've been to several Quaker meetings, and they are very, I keep using the word magical, they're very magical for me. Of you go, and there is silence, and there is stillness, and I feel like as a society, we don't value that enough, personally. Part of the reason, even when I don't go to a Quaker meeting, I just enjoy church. I'm like, I go, and here is a place where you are for an hour, and there is symbolism, and there is stillness. I feel like we don't value stillness enough. But no, I do consider myself a Christian, and there is a church that I attend, and the previous person who had been running it stepped down because they had to see to things with their family, and the spot sat vacant for a while, and then one Sunday they mentioned it, and I went,
Sure.
You know what?
I could do that.
Yeah, it was a call of like, this is a thing you should do for a while. And I stepped into it, and I very much enjoyed it, and I had never considered myself a person that was very good with kids. No, because I have no interest in having children.
This whole idea is just like I'm still like, okay, one, you practice magic, but you're also like doing stuff with like Sunday school. It's just
And I had a good run of it up until COVID hit, and it threw that whole job upside down. And I eventually stepped down, in part because I was like, I am not prepared for this. Like, I can't. You need somebody who's like an educator, not a guy who is for running like online things and all that. You need somebody who is like really on the ball, and you need somebody who can dedicate more than like the time that I can dedicate to this.
Gotcha.
Although I will say it was a real shame for me that in person, I mean, obviously with everything with COVID, in person things going to a halt, but having to repeatedly stop one of the kids from trying to RKO another kid and repeatedly correcting him that it's called the diamond cutter.
Oh. Well, no, diamond cutter he drops. RKO he jumps up in the air. That's the difference.
I just want to like, it's funny to me because what Drew doesn't know about me is that I actually work at a preschool. So like, everything you're saying, like, it's just so entertaining to me because I see it on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, children are lunatics.
They are. They are. I have never heard a saying more true as the one that they are like mini drunk adults. And they
Yes.
are. They are.
They're mini drunk adults, and they are relatively indestructible.
Yep.
My favorite thing with kids is that if you no-sell that a child should be hurt by something, they generally don't react. Yeah. As an aside, I dated a woman who had, at the time, and this is years ago, a 5-year-old. And this kid ran in front of another kid being pushed on a swing set one time, and literally just the other kid, not on purpose, drop-kicked her.
Jesus. Being
pushed, and she rolled into the dirt, and I, like, stopped my girlfriend from getting up and freaking out, and I walked over. And I, like, kid was already picking herself up, and I'm just no-selling. I'm just like, nope, don't freak out. I'm like, hey, kiddo, you okay? Yeah. I'm like, anything broken? No. And I'm checking her, making sure, like, you're not bleeding, nothing's broken. I'm like, do we need to amputate anything? No. Do you want to go play? Yeah. Okay, go play. You're fine. And the dad pushing the other kid on the swing was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for my kid to hit your kid. And I'm like, don't worry, it's not my kid. And I walk back, and I'm like 3 steps back towards the mom, and I'm like, that was the worst thing I could say.
That's not my kid.
Yeah, that's not my kid. I think it's also funny, though, to watch them do stuff like that. And just, like, as an adult, like, your mentality's different, but you're also like, you know, one point in my life, like, that was me. Like, what happened? You know, it's like, why, you're completely different perspective on things now as an adult, but like, that was me once.
and that is one of the things with, looping it back around to, positive thinking and, trying to live like that. Like, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about, this thing happened to me 3 days ago and I'm still upset about it.
No.
You're not, you're bummed about something bad happening right now, but you're not dwelling on it.
Right.
You're not thinking about the future and all the terrible things that can happen. Like, I look at the future right now and I used to be, I can't do that. And now I'm just like, no, screw it. There's no reason that I can't do this thing in like a year. Like,
yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to like practicing magic, did you have, because you said before that you've never done like any type of group ritual work, right? It was always solo practitioner.
I've always been very much. I mean, I have friends that practice, and I've done a couple like distance workings where we coordinated things across different time zones. But in terms of like getting a bunch of people together and doing something, that has not really happened for me. I've very much been just, flying solo, doing my thing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah.
Have you like had any like experiences while doing like solo ritual work? I've done some, but I've also done like group stuff, and I've had experiences while meditating and all kinds of crazy weird stuff with that.
I have had and I generally don't like to explore too much the things that have happened, because I think that, the after effects of things that happen, like, I think the thing you're doing is almost more important than, what happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely had, odd experiences coming out of rituals. I've definitely had that feeling of like, a liminal space where it's kind of dreamlike. One of my favorites was honestly after, one ritual. It wasn't some big, heavy thing, but it was just, I had done this ritual work and all that, and I just stepped outside and I was like, wow, okay, I literally, and I, had the windows open so I was aware of how bright it was out, because, lived in an apartment that got a lot of sunshine, and I was like, wow, okay, I actually need to like, put on sunglasses. The world is much more vibrant right now. It was a thoroughly pleasant experience of, no, the world is just an incredibly vibrant place for me right now for the next, I'd say probably 45 minutes.
Oh.
It was quite nice.
Yeah. No, I can see that though. That's
Yeah.
kind of equal to how like I feel if I come out of like a group thing, like except like multiplied.
Yeah, I've come out like feeling like good and rejoiced, and like you're attacking like everything just seems really violent, very vibrant. And
I watched a squirrel headbutt another squirrel that day. It was very violent.
I mean, that's pretty.
But I've also come out like really tired, almost feeling drunk, and like really exhausted. I've had that too, where it's like you put a lot into something, and you're like, oh my god, that was pretty intense.
Yeah, I've definitely had those experiences as well. No, generally at this point, a lot of the work that I do is I take the same approach to this as I do to fitness, which sounds weird, but there was a quote that I read from somebody that rang true, which is, ideally when you're done with a workout, you should feel better leaving the gym than you did walking in, not the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it was somebody around our age, Jordan, who is a professional athlete talking about, not beating the crap out of his body.
Right.
Similarly, at this point, I'm like, no, I'm not here for a lot of ritual. I mean, there's always going to be some that's going to be super heavy and draining.
Yeah.
That you occasionally have to do, but like regular work that drains you is not work I'm interested in.
Right.
Yeah, same.
For me, it's the only time I feel drained is when it's like something happened that was like super intense, and then afterwards there's just like a lot to digest, and it's just like took a lot out of me. It's not that I understand when you go to like using the gym reference. I've gone to the gym, and I've freaking like blown myself out, and I get done, and like everything hurts, and I'm miserable, and it's like me just eating just feels like sickening because I just extended myself way too much.
Yeah,
but
and
like
you're feeling bad for like 3 days afterwards,
right
too.
But with this, it's kind of a difference because it's not so much physical; it's just more mental. But at the same time, it's like even all those experiences I've had, it's been incredible. But even though like the aftermath, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then like usually after like symptoms die away, it's like, oh wow, I feel really good, and I had like this really amazing positive experience, or I learned this from that, or however. So, yeah, I get what you're saying about that too.
Yeah, and my other one is, I've noticed as I've gotten older and moved along. Don't know if I'd say the path, but the way I'm walking. I've noticed that I tend to do, like I was saying with sigils and spells and that I tend to do less workings that are like, oh, I need to go do this. It's, no, I have this schedule. There are these regular offerings that I do. There are this regular prayer work that I do. There's this regular ritual work that I do. I meditate twice a day. Last year, I actually learned transcendental meditation.
Nice.
Which has been, honestly the most effective form of meditation I've ever done. And I've been meditating on and off since I was a teenager.
That's awesome.
My favorite thing about meditating is there's no wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if someone tells you're doing it wrong, that means they're wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, I think whatever works for you, if you just need 5 minutes to go into a quiet place and just sit in a chair and just zone out, sure, awesome. Or, maybe you need music and candles and a full hour, the whole nine. Like, just whatever works for you. That's one of my favorite things about meditation.
I'd say that on like the full hour thing, my personal opinion is that there's a diminishing returns point.
Right.
At least for me, I'm like, I don't know, maybe every once in a while I'll see someone be like, I meditated for like 2 hours in the morning. And I'm like, that's a lot of my morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a lot of time.
Well, it's like for me, it's like whatever time I meditate, I never have a set time period. It's just like, I just know when I'm done. I just know. I'm just like, oh, cool, I'm done.
Yeah, no, I set a timer for 20 minutes and I'm good. And then, give myself, couple minutes to, come up out of it, because for me, the worst thing to do is just immediately get up and be like, all right, now I'm going to, tackle my day, because it's cool. You just took all those benefits that you had and you just shotgunned them.
Yeah.
I
generally have a playlist that I listen to when I meditate, and it's like that to me is kind of like my time frame, because I know, if I hear a song, I'm like, wow, I know I've been here for a while, or it's like, but I'm not really gauging that at all. Again, I just know when I'm done. I'm like, I just know that feeling. I'm like, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. Or in one case, I had a really crazy experience, and it was like going negative. One of the few times I ever had like meditation go like really sour.
Yeah, same. I had a couple times.
Literally, my cat jumped in my lap and got me out of it.
Aww.
Yeah, I was like, you are amazing.
It's like they knew.
Yeah,
which
right?
They probably did.
One of the weirdest things, I don't know, like she just jumped my lap, and it was just like, she scared the crap out of me, because I didn't know she like came into the room. But yeah, she was just like, and then she started snuggling up to me, and I don't know if she knew or if that was just coincidence, but
I would say back to what like we've heard in one of the first, like the very first episode we did.
Animals just know.
Animals know.
Yeah.
Animals know if you're in distress, or if something's going wrong, or if something is weird is going on. Like, they just know.
I feel like my cat always, like my one cat always wants to snuggle with me when I'm meditating, just in general. Like, and I think that's just a similar thing. Like, she can tell that my body's extremely calm, and she's like, oh, well, let's snuggle.
There is a thing. I was discussing it one day with somebody I know who is a transcendental meditation instructor, and it's like, yeah, generally they're like, just give this time for yourself, and like, your kids can handle themselves for 20 minutes. Shut your animals out. And I'm like, I don't shut Dustin out, because Dustin sees, my wife meditates as well. She also does TM. And Dustin sees us meditating and goes, oh, cool, family time. And he curls up between us.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he just immediately like croissants himself and goes to sleep.
I usually leave my door open, but one of my cats, like he has no personal boundaries, and he always wants attention at the world's worst times, no matter what I'm doing. So, it's like I'm never quite sure. So normally I will light incense, and that kind of like doesn't necessarily keep him out, but I know that like, okay, like if I'm being quiet and there's like incense going on, he generally just
smoke.
leaves. Yeah,
I think the smoke
kind of like
them.
Yeah, a little bit. So, not trying to be an asshole towards my cats, but it's just kind of like, dude, like I just
need some space.
Yeah, it's like I just need like 15 minutes alone, dude.
There is sacred space,
which cats don't know about.
Well, cats do. They just think that the whole world is their sacred space.
Yeah,
With a lot
that's
of
true.
us.
I think that was it better. Yeah, like.
Yeah, just. Oh, I understand sacred space. You're in mine.
Right. Like.
You're welcome. I'm letting you use this.
Yeah, I can be as close to you as I want constantly, but like if I need my space, you better give it to me.
Yep.
I will say, like, I have some weird stuff in my house. I have a lot of weird occult stuff, and my cats will, especially Agent, he will get into everything. He just leaves that stuff alone, and I'm like, I don't know if it weirds you out, or if you just know, or if it just not interests you. But I'm happy that you don't knock this shit over.
Well, if it's not like any type of energy on it, I'm sure he probably knows. Like,
right.
Hey.
Or something. I don't know. But I'm just thankful he hasn't knocked over some like glasses.
But
and stuff.
it's funny because I feel like now that you say that, like my cats are the same way. They don't touch that stuff. They leave it alone.
Yeah.
Dustin never really bothers any. It helps that we adopted him and he's 11, and he's just like, nope, I am chill. I am older. I have dignity, and we let him believe that. He likes to think he has it.
I remember you were telling me one time you like went out like 5-degree weather or something like that and did a ritual like outside in like the snowstorm or something crazy like that.
It was actually I was on the bank of the Mystic River in Somerville. And yeah, which was not too far from where I lived at the time. And yeah, it was a lot. And I absolutely cast out several things that were no longer bringing value to my life and, weighing me down in my practice. Several like physical items, physical representations of those things went and were gone. And yeah, that still got the records of that ritual. Like I said, I have several notebooks at this point that are, hold my records essentially of the stuff I've done. And yeah, looking back on that, it absolutely worked.
I remember you telling me about that, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no,
That-
I think I could do that.
That was a
so
lot.
cold.
Too much for me.
It was actually it took longer than I didn't want to take any time at all because it was like 5 degrees out. It was no bullshit, incredibly cold. And because it was so windy, because I was on the water, I was having the worst time.
I'm sure.
Lighting, first of all, cutting wind, and second of all, trying to light anything in that wind. Brutal exercise. Whew.
Yeah, that sounds pretty miserable.
That was pretty fun. Yeah. So speaking of weird things in your house, I know one that you've asked me about, Jordan, is and I can send you the picture. We actually have, I'm pretty sure it's an original antique Ouija board.
Yeah, I remember you posted
on our shelf.
I remember you posted on Facebook that you found it in your apartment or something.
It is a William Fuld. No, so here's the story. So we found it in my wife's family home that her grandmother lives in.
Interesting.
We found it in a wall where the ice box is.
The plot
The
thickens.
refrigerator. Well, not really, because
like you're just like don't. You're getting
no, not yeah, no. I'm about to disappoint you.
Thanks for the word.
Her great grandfather was a handyman and a carpenter, and he needed a piece of wood to fill this spot. And so he took his wife's Ouija board, cut it down a little bit, and nailed it in.
That's hilarious.
And I'm just like,
Improvising.
yeah, no, that's there is a saying that has floated around town, because my wife's family is an old French family of never let a Frenchman fix your house. Because and I've seen some of Merrimack Valley was very heavily settled by those peoples. And so I've seen some of them where it's like, yep, I pulled 3 different size nails out of this thing, but whatever, it held it in. This was the days before you could go down to a hardware store and be like, I need 50 nails of this exact size.
Yeah.
So you just use what you had around the house.
I wouldn't say that story was disappointing. I just didn't go in the direction I expected.
Yeah. Well, and so we have it, and it's wonderful. And my favorite thing in the world was I posted a picture on Instagram, and a friend tagged somebody else who's a Ouija board collector, and he goes, well, it's probably from the 60s. And I'm like, that's amazing, because my wife's grandmother is in her 90s. She still got all of her marbles. I want to be this lady when I grow up.
Right.
When I met this woman, she was on a 1.5-mile walk to a coffee shop to meet her friends.
Good for
and
her.
I was like,
that's awesome.
You're the coolest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
And can I please be... She's my argument for staying active your whole life.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. Like, that's my goal in life, is to be like that when I get older.
Well,
yeah.
And if she
baddest old person on the planet.
And if she had it from the 50s or 60s, that would actually make sense, because there was the new age craze going on around that time. This is
oh no,
probably before the hippie. What?
This didn't belong to her.
Oh.
This belonged to her mother. This Ouija board belonged to my wife's great grandmother.
Whoa.
Her grandmother's mother.
So it was probably like an original.
Wow.
It is an original William Fuld.
Oh my god.
Dang.
Okay,
so it was like when the Ouija board first came out.
Too bad it's too messed up.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, I was gonna say you can see every letter and every number, and I'm going to to refresh myself. I'm looking at it. There's the goodbye on it, but the yes and no are hacked down. So it's not really a usable Ouija board. But it is, however, amazing to look at. And my favorite thing in the world is posting it and having people be like, put that thing back where it came from.
If you don't mind, do you mind?
No, it's fine.
Do you mind if we post that picture to our blog? so people can see
Oh
it?
yeah, no, that's
Okay,
totally
cool.
fine.
So we'll have a picture of the Ouija board and also his PMA tattoo on our blog if you wanted to see what these things look like. Especially the Ouija board, because it's just hilarious. Because you showed it to me on a webcam, and it's all like hacked up.
Yeah,
Doesn't work, but has good memories.
You could probably make it work.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
like I said, we've talked about this before. You can make a Ouija box out of you can make a Ouija board out of a pizza box.
That's true.
So,
we were talking about that in one of our episodes.
I think if you really wanted to make it work, you probably could figure it out and make it work.
Oh, you absolutely could. I mean, that's the thing is I think that people stick to orthodoxy with a little too much with a lot of occult and magic personally. And there's value to the orthodoxy, but there's also the risk of absolutely entrapping yourself.
Right. I that was one thing that's always turned me off about it is kind of the dogmatic view that people have on it, like especially like any type of ritual work or occult, and people are like, oh, this is the way it's always been done. I'm like, since when?
Right.
Like some of this stuff came out in like the 60s, like or the 50s. Like this isn't like it's not some like long held tradition that goes back thousands of years.
And also there's nothing that automatically says that just because it's a tradition that stretches back 2,000 years that you have to do it exactly like that right now, that's sacrosanct and can never be altered. I mean, I feel like there's a good balance to be struck between respecting the traditions of the past and also accepting that we are in 2021 and where we are now. Let's say, for instance, if you're doing something with, I don't know, I'm going to throw out, an example. Let's say you're doing some sort of work with, I don't know, Zeus or Hades or something like that. Hecate. There's nothing that says, okay, we have to carry on exactly like it was in that era because it's not that era. And at a certain point, not to really put my foot in my mouth, at a certain point, it kind of strikes me more like somebody's cosplaying.
I mean, and I can see that, and that's also, to say, a good point to that as well is like, why would you try to do it exactly like it supposedly was done in that era? Because there's no way we know to a T, to a science, how it was done. So it's almost like ridiculous to even have that expectation.
Right.
And also things always change and they move and they alter. I think of it very much in the same vein with music. I make, blues-based music. I am not a conventional blues band. I make sometimes very hard-edge punk blues. Sometimes I make very like psychedelic blues. And I've had people tell me they've heard something and they're like, oh, this isn't really blues music. And I'm like, yes, it is. It's just not what you want to call blues music.
Right.
This is absolutely blues-based music. It's just not conventional 12-bar guy in a bowling shirt playing Sweet Home Chicago blues.
Right.
And very similar. It's like, no, this is a valid ritual. It's just not a passed down from, 1500 or whenever, Solomonic ritual or what have you. I'm just throwing something out there.
Dude, I've been to rituals before where there were no props, nothing, no candles, nothing. Nothing was used except for people. And that was it. And some of those are even the most amazing because there's nothing. It's just you just go in there and just do your thing and it works great.
Yep, that's how that Egyptian one was that I took you to.
Mm-hmm. Like that was cool. There was nothing. That was it. Like sometimes those work for me even better.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes I feel like that's what you need.
Because you're not so worried about like, oh, that needs to be placed there, or this needs to be done like this, or this needs to be said like that, like whatever.
Yeah, it's very much it's at a certain point with people who are so obsessed with the trappings of rituals, it starts to become rote. It starts to become much more, all right, check notes, read off list. And it's like, that's not, I'd much rather have the energy high when I am doing a ritual. Or like similarly, I've had, I do tarot card readings. And there are times that I'll do like a very traditional spread or a spread that like I've come up with or that somebody introduced me to that works for me. And then I remember, a couple of the ones that have absolutely resonated with me that I've done for people were one I did for a friend, and I literally just flipped 2 cards, and I was like, yup. And I told her what I saw, and, she, several months later, was like, you were absolutely spot on.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how you did that. Like, and then one that I did for someone where at one point I was literally just sitting there and I was doing it online. I was doing it over Zoom, and I'm sitting there and I'm holding them fanned out like I'm reading a poker hand. And I know, in the back of my head, there was that little voice of somebody going, you need to respect the cards, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I am.
Right.
But I'm just like, all right, so here's what, and it just very much like, I know I looked like a tired guy at a casino table. All right, so here's what I'm seeing. And yeah,
as long as you're using,
hence what,
as long as you're using the cards,
Right, and
like,
your
you-
intention
Yeah.
is right. Like, I don't see.
Right. I
just remembering the meme of like, you need to, respect your card, grab them, blah, blah, blah. And then it's, me reading them, laying upside down on my bed, drink sitting next to me. Wild.
one of my favorite places to find spreads is actually Pinterest.
Same.
Like you can find, oh man, there's so many, like there's some amazing spreads, and you could try them out and be like, wow, that did nothing, or it didn't work for me at all. And then you find one, and I have a couple that are my favorites, and I just found on Pinterest. And I'm not the greatest at tarot reading. I'm more fascinated by them. I have like 50 decks. I collect them, but I'm not the greatest at like reading them or using them. I just more respect and appreciate them.
I don't think I'm any great talent. I think I do a lot of them, and because I keep notes that I can go back and I can look at the ones that I've done for like myself and just be like, wow, fuck you, past self. How dare you attack me right now? Or again, where I've had several people that I've done them for, turn to me and tell me like, wow, that really helped. That really put things in perspective. Months later, somebody being like, you were absolutely right, and I didn't want to admit it then. And I'm like, well, at least you figured that out now.
At least you know now.
Yeah,
I think
like,
too.
no shade.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's also too like important to like remember too, and I also think this is interesting to me. And one of my favorite things about it is like you get like different feelings, different vibes, almost like a different mood from deck to deck. Like you could do a certain layout of a reading using one deck and then switch to a completely different deck and get completely different results.
See, I've only ever really used the Rider-Waite. Yeah,
It's-
I've had the same tarot deck forever.
I actually enjoy using different decks.
Same.
Because I have one deck, and this is gonna sound insane. I have a deck that kind of has a comedic sense of personality almost.
Yeah.
When it does readings, it's like it just pulls out these cards. You're like, what the hell? It's kind of goofy and funny. And then I have other decks that are just like you do a reading, and it's like it's just straight and to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
No,
one like
it's
that.
I love other decks. I'm still low key sad that the Twin Peaks Tarot never really came out.
Wasn't that a GoFundMe or something like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Twin Peaks Tarot. I don't think it ever really made it.
Because it's fun to me now. Like
the campaign has been canceled and the deck will not be for sale.
How many decks come out now from movies and stuff like that? There's so many of them now. It's like I find them kind of rad.
I've always wanted to find the Mage of the Ascension one.
Apparently, you can find the Twin Peaks one on eBay.
It's just
That's-
hard,
yeah.
and they go for a lot.
Because
Yeah,
they're
like
probably
this
like
one's...
early. They're probably early like models from the GoFundMe or something like that you probably could purchase because you can
actually just came. I don't know if this is...
because there's websites you can print off your own tarot cards.
Yeah.
So
I may have lied.
GameCrafter.com is a really big one for any type of board games and like if you're into RPG tabletops, card games, whatever that, but they also have a tarot card section. You can buy tarot cards made from there that people have made and uploaded, or you can upload your own and buy your own, make your own tarot deck, literally.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
These ones I found on eBay aren't even tarot cards. They're just like
Yeah.
trading cards.
Yeah, I'm also very weary of tarot cards on eBay. There's a lot of fakes on there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, there's a
I don't get them
lot
off.
of.
I don't get mine off eBay. Most of mine came from Etsy.
I have a lot from eBay, but all mine are like old. I buy a lot of old decks off eBay, and I know what I look for as far as what people are selling and what they have and stuff like that. If it says Rider White 1971 original, then no, that's fake.
Yeah.
I got one of my one of them. Like I'll either buy them off Etsy or like off somebody who's like
Right.
made them. Or I found like going to places like Magical Druid or
Yeah.
Witch Lab are really good places to get them.
Yeah.
I have a Rider White deck that I found at a used bookshop for $10. It's from I was trying to date it. It's from the late 70s, early 80s, and I only paid $10 for it. I was so stoked about that. I'm like, because I just thought it was another one of the Rider White decks. And I was like, oh my god, this doesn't have the copyright on it. This doesn't have a barcode. Doesn't have the website, and it had a different address for U.S. games. It had the original address on it. So I was really, really stoked about that find.
Also, I can get a Maze of the Ascension Tarot for like $100 on eBay.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gorgeous art.
Yeah, there's so many. Like I said, like there's a lot of. I wouldn't buy a brand new deck from eBay. Those are the ones I'm always worried about, unless you can tell it's someone from someone's house. But most of the used decks I'm comfortable buying from eBay because most time you can tell a difference when it's from a company in China or somebody's house.
Right.
You can just immediately tell from a poster on eBay,
exactly. But
especially if you're a collector of anything.
I've really mostly, only really done readings with the Rider Waite because it's the one that I've always had.
Right.
And so it's the one that I'm very familiar with interpreting symbolism on, and yeah, it's always worked for me. And yeah, I attribute, I'd say probably a lot of that, I won't say success, but, getting good at it to learning the symbolism back and forth, which is really just a lot of doing it, and then keeping notes, which is another thing that, doing specifically, starting with Chaos Magick and then leaning more into like ceremonial stuff, kind of ingrained in me. And I'm just a guy who likes to take notes. It's, nope, this is what time I did it. This is, keep track of other environmental factors, how I was feeling, and things like that.
It's
and
hilarious.
just,
I'm the complete opposite. Like I do it, and I'm like, cool, all right, cool. I had that experience. I might write it down, if
Nope.
not, and I'm
See,
really bad about that.
I
type of
always
stuff.
write mine down too.
Yeah, I'm really bad. Like
what it does for me is it lets me. Sorry, go ahead. You were starting to say, and I will not interrupt you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I usually have whatever I'm doing like written down, and I'm doing that, and that's it. I don't write down like the cause or effects or aftermath or whatever. I don't write any of that stuff down. I did for a minute, and I got lazy, and I just like, whatever.
See, for me, that's so important to the practice for me, because what it does is it prevents me from bullshitting myself.
Yeah.
Because the human brain will let you bullshit yourself so effectively.
Mm-hmm, true.
And yeah, if you let it, it will absolutely lie its face off to you. And you'll be like, oh, that didn't work, but like maybe I saw something, and it lets you go back. And, for instance, I've flipped back through my notes sometimes and been like, oh, okay, this thing that I did last year on this date, okay, this is what's going on right now. Huh, interesting. That's a nice change.
Yeah, which that's the reason I do it too. I think it's always nice and important to go back and reflect on like, oh, this was how I was a year ago, and this is where I'm at now.
I think for me, it was just, it's just one of those things where I experienced something and I'm like, cool, all right, I learned that from this. Okay. And then I just kind of move on and just move on. That's one of the reasons why I don't really document much as far as for me. I think it also comes down to preference too, though.
Right. And I think also too with that, it kind of relates to what we were talking about with the meditation thing. Like different people, like different things work for different people.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I do, again, I'm not going to be, like hard line in the sand. Just for me, it's always helped. And it's a thing that I will always recommend to anybody that is getting into it is like, learn to document, learn to take, not like super scientific, but like a scientific enough set of notes where you can at least look, where you can at least look back on it and see like, okay, this is a thing that I was doing in like 2017. Also, it's just kind of nice to look and be like, okay, this is how I've changed since I started.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And I think it's very beneficial to document. I'm just saying for me personally, one of my things is I just kind of get lazy about it. Or when I do document stuff, it's so just basic outline that there's really not much information there for me to go back to, even go back, because I'm not one of those people who, again, I think for me, it's just more about the experience. Anything else, I get like experience from it, and I've learned something from that, or it's like, or I see something from a different point of view that I didn't see before, and it's like, huh, cool, that's like my main takeaway, and that's like, cool, I got what I needed out of that. Or it's just like, if I do something with a group, it's just like, cool, I got like that camaraderie. Maybe that was like the main thing I needed out of that more than anything else.
Which I think is also important too, to like sometimes do it to, like you said, to get a different perspective on something. Like, I never viewed that in that way before.
Right.
Yeah. It's, I think that part of it for me is that, things are not always going to be immediate. I've definitely had things that I've done where I'm like, in the immediate term, okay, that looked like a failure until I stopped and I turned it a little bit and I looked at it from this angle. 3 months down the line, and okay, that was the start of this other thing.
Right.
I also think that it's very important to be able to look and be like, as we were saying at the beginning, no, that absolutely that tanked.
Right. Also, it's okay to recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's not only necessary, it's incredibly important to recognize, like, all right, that tanked, because if you don't experience failure, if you don't experience challenges, I don't think you can grow.
Exactly.
Like, stress and resistance are the things that we push against to grow. And so if you never encounter that stress and resistance, you're not working hard enough.
I agree.
Yeah. To use the music analogy, Jordan, you and I are both guitar players. You've seen me live. There are times when I will write something that is right up at the edge of, like, I'm not sure if I can pull this off.
Yeah.
And
that's when alcohol comes into play.
Funnily not for me, because I stopped drinking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
And I used to drop the R.L. Burnside line, and now I don't, which is you don't drink anymore. I don't drink any less either. But yeah, no, it's so I go into shows and everything like that. Stone sober now.
Oh wow. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, but no, it's it's that it's you've written this part that's right up against the edge of what you can do live. So you have to grow to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on any final notes, I want to ask you this. Do you have any crazy ghost stories you'd like to share?
Let's see. So I used,
Because I know you and I were talking, and you're like, "Do you want me to share them?" I was like, "Yeah." You're like, "Okay, let me think one up." And so I'm gonna ask now.
Yeah.
Is there any you wanted to share?
Let's see. There are a few that I can share with you. So the home that I live in right now is I am pretty sure haunted.
If
I
you're
have
saying
not
it's
seen.
pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. It has nothing to do with the
Probably
Ouija
is.
board. Well, no. So here's the thing: is things that I found out after we moved into this. The home we live in right now was built at the turn of the 20th century, literally build date 1900. And for a while, this place was a bordello. And then they split it up into condos, and I'm not exactly sure when that happened. But two things that have happened in this house since I moved in are, one, we have found several buttons that do not belong to any item of clothing that either myself or my wife own or wear.
I mean, like,
Right at, like, inside the door, like, past the threshold,
oh, weird.
like, past a locked door, and I was like, huh, weird. And, like, checked, and it's like, no, these don't belong to any of yours, these don't belong to any of mine, weird. And then there's just a weird thing where, like, there'll be a cabinet door open, and it's like, okay, like, I know I closed that. I know you closed that. Like, one of us certainly didn't leave that on. However, whatever it is fairly benign, because I have absolutely walked into the kitchen and gone, hey, knock it off. We have a moth problem here. It's nighttime. Stop. And it has pretty much ceased. This is not the first time that I've ever just essentially scolded a ghost.
But I mean, sometimes that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
I'll share two more with you. I worked in a bar that was in the old original House of Blue space in Harvard Square. And I worked in the basement bar where none of the other bartenders wanted to work. Because they're like, oh, it's haunted down there. It's creepy. And one day I was on the third floor doing count out, and we saw a keg fall in the keg room, which is in the basement. And there was no reason for it to fall. And so I go down 3 flights of stairs, and I walk into the keg room, and I just open up the liquor room and keg room door, and I go, hey! It's nighttime! Knock it off! Trying to count out!
But Ghosty,
Pull this shit at 2 p.m, guys!
Ghosty wants
Please!
some booze.
And I put the keg back up, and I just closed the door, and I'm like, yep, I just yelled at a ghost. But this is never... No, and I walk out, and I turn the lights out, and I walk out through the pitch black back to the stairs. I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. Cero miedo. If you go in with no fear, you're pretty fine. And then the third one that's a little bit weirder for me is when I was younger, when I was, just after I'd left college, because I dropped out, I was working at a big box retail store in New Jersey that had been built over the site of the old Menlo Park Sanitarium. And I was working overnights. I was working in electronics, so just restocking, we've all had that overnight job.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I would often be the only person in that department because one person can handle that department. And yeah, just stuff would constantly get moved. And in like the stock room where it's like, okay, I went in there and the ladder is out of place and there's no reason security cameras would never work. Like the security cameras would constantly go on the fritz. Like it was a noted problem. Like corporate was complaining about it because it's a high value area
Right.
to have your security cameras going out. And I absolutely, in that stock room, saw several shadow people. And at one point when I was walking to work, there was a section where you walked along roads, like along a road through woods. And there was a bridge that you had to pass under. A little railroad bridge. And I say this and this is, very much, this is the definition of unreliable eyewitness testimony. Because I will swear to you, but this is also half a lifetime ago.
Right.
That what I saw was a shadow person with a hat by the bridge that then darted under the bridge, and you had to pass under this bridge. There was no way around it.
Oof.
To get to the store.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, I called out that night. I was like, nope, walking to work. It's a nice summer day. It's a nice summer night. It's like 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn shame I'm not going to work today then. And I turned back around and walked back through the woods back up to my house.
Dude, I think shadow people are like one of the most scariest things on the planet. Like as far as all paranormal things, like shadow people for whatever reason, like scares the crap out of me, probably more than anything else.
Well, I think that's probably to your brain because
Right.
like you can't. It's exactly, it's a shadow person. You can't see
There's nothing.
no features.
Every single thing that's about a shadow person is just wrong, and you know, and like if you just process that, and if something is
it's
wrong.
like a void of blackness.
Yeah. And that to me is what scares me about it. Is that it's just all wrong, and there's nothing. It's just like, what can you do? It's
Nothing.
It's terrifying to me.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan, and those remain some of the spookier. Like again, here it's like, okay, it's cabinets and buttons, and it's just like, dude, knock it off. Stop messing with the cabinets, please.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm scolding a 6-year-old. Stop playing with the cabinets. Don't touch my thermostat.
Yeah.
Like there's, the one, at the old House of Blues space was like, whatever. It's an old rock club. It's an old blues club. Like, these things, I honestly kind of loved that because it was like, whatever. It
of course it's haunted.
Right.
Yeah, of course it's haunted. It's the old House of Blues.
It should be haunted.
Yeah, I was going to say, the people that trod this stage, R.L. Burnside, T. Model Ford, B.B. King played there, I think. Like, this was a cool space. I'm touched to know that several men that I get to call friends got to play there,
right.
But none of them. Sadly, I never got to meet RL or T Model or BB King. But yeah, like that's cool. But no, that big box store with its just, our security equipment keeps breaking down for no good reason. Like, stuff moves in that stock room for no good reason. You open the stockroom door and it's like you see something dart and it's like, nope, closed door. I'll be back in 10 minutes. You go fuck yourself and sort yourself out there, bud.
Yeah, I got chased out of a storage unit one time. I saw a corner of my eye. I saw like a shadowy figure run past the storage unit I was in. I was actually practicing there. I was like by myself. I was recording something, and I literally jumped about 10 feet in the air. And then I just started playing, and then immediately something in my brain was like, "You should leave right now."
Yeah. Oh, it's primal.
And then I got fucking chased out of there. I was like, "Oh god."
I feel like if I was a ghost though, and you were gonna haunt somewhere, like a blues place is a pretty
that's a pretty fucking rad
great,
place.
Yeah,
it's a pretty rad place.
I feel like that's the choice. It's the prime choice as a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that it was one of those. The building had always been there and kind of always been a bar.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what it was, but it was just like, again, knock keg over. I'm not dealing with this. Yell. just knock it off.
I had a friend who got woken up in the middle of the night by something because his house was haunted, and he literally drop kicked the air. It was like 2 a.m. He just jumps up and Randy Orton drop kicks in the middle of the air. he's like, I don't know what it was, but I drop kicked something.
That's all you could do.
I'm like, most people would be terrified. You just fucking just decided to just up and just fucking jump up in the air and drop kick a fucking ghost.
It's funny that's their first instinct.
That was his first reaction. I'm like, well, that's pretty amazing.
Drop kick this ghost.
The funny thing about this guy, he didn't believe in anything. He was complete skeptic about everything. He just woke up scared, just fucking drop kicked. He's like, still don't know what it was. Don't care to know what it was, but yeah, he's like, I fucking drop kicked it.
I have a lot of friends that are skeptics, and my favorite thing is always that I have several of them who call themselves skeptics and are clearly like, I would be terrified if I ran across something for real.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always said that I wanted... There was one guy that I knew, he was a guitarist in another band, and like hardcore skeptic, but the most nervous person I'd ever met. And I'm like, I want like a ghost hunting show like BuzzFeed Unsolved with
that's
you and
such
I.
a good show.
I love that show, but it would just be a reversal of, because Ryan is constantly nervous and he's a believer, and Shane's just like, fuck you, goat man.
Yeah.
And is a skeptic. And it would be this skeptic guy who's completely nervous, and then me just like wandering around, sunglasses at night. Wild, I love this asylum. Cool. How are you not weirded out? Because I know like a dozen things I can do right now if I really get scared.
Yeah. Yeah, funny thing about talking about like skeptics and stuff like that. So we actually purchased a haunted doll.
Oh, yeah.
Forewarning about some next future episodes and stuff.
Does our haunted doll have a name? Not to
No,
interrupt
it
you.
doesn't have a name.
I feel like we should name her.
So we purchased a haunted...
Matilda.
Matilda. All right. Her name's
right.
Matilda.
Her name's Matilda now.
Okay.
So we
Matilda.
purchased a haunted doll off eBay. It is hilarious because neither one of us wanted to keep this thing. So I went around and asked a bunch of friends who I knew were skeptics. Everyone was like, fuck no.
Nope.
Like, I'm not, no. I'm like, you don't believe in this shit? I still, no.
Nope.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who doesn't believe this shit, and but he's also like into occult and a bunch of weird shit. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, would you be interested in keeping this for us and like filming it and documenting your life with this doll if it is indeed haunted? He's like, fuck yeah. He's like, if anything, I get possessed, it makes a cool ass story.
And now he has the doll.
It's still in shipping.
That's right. It's still in shipping.
It's still in shipping. You should arrive by Monday, so we'll be keeping updates on this haunted doll.
Yeah.
Where did you ship it to?
His house.
Like, how many states away is this?
Oh, he's in Columbus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I actually, whenever I met up with him, I gave him a video camera and I gave him an EMF reader, and I was like,
"That's right, that's what you gave him." I knew you guys had met up and give him something. That's what you gave him.
So I was like, "Here you go, dude." So yeah, this is gonna be on future episodes. We're gonna be covering this, and we're gonna actually.
It's gonna be a saga.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit saga. But we have some plans for this, and it's gonna be amazing. And I'm gonna laugh even harder if this is all for nothing.
If
it's
love
good,
it.
I feel like it could potentially be like a permanent segment.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so we did purchase a haunted doll because we've been talking about it forever. But neither one of us wanted it shipped to our houses, so I had it shipped to his house.
Like it was like we talked about it in the first episode, and our immediate response was like, there was no like even contemplating it. We were both like, no, we're not keeping it. Someone else has to do it.
I'm drawing a line in the sand here.
Right.
I have a friend who's a borderline atheist, and I asked her, and she was like, no. I was like, you don't believe in this stuff. Why does it matter?
No.
Yeah, that's like when we pulled the Ouija board out of the wall, and I can send you two because I have them at least on my Instagram. I have the picture of where it was in the wall.
Oh man!
And it was literally just we're filling like a void space between like the cabinets and the wall, and I put it online, and immediately like one of my atheist friends comments, "Put it back," and I'm like. Same deal. You don't believe in this.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of my like witchy friends were like, you should put that thing back. No. It belongs to me now.
I love your mentality though, because I would probably be one of those people too that would be like, put it back. But I love your mentality is like, no, this is mine now. It's my house, my Ouija board.
This is
my
mine.
Wall.
It belongs to actually it's up on we have a built-in set of shelves in our living room, and it sits up on those shelves.
Yeah, you'll have to send me a picture so I can post it.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm like, no, this is a family heirloom. It deserves to not be in a wall. It deserves to be, and my wife's grandmother told the story about like, oh yeah, no, my mother had that and she used it when I was a child.
And
again, this is a woman in her 90s, so I'm like, okay. You were born in like 1930.
You seem okay now.
Your mother had this in the 1930s, at most World War II era. This is an original Ouija board.
I feel like
this
having
is
that
sitting on my shelf. This is the
respect
coolest
for
thing in the world.
Yeah, I think the fact that you just started like, this thing's awesome. You're just hanging up on the wall. I would do the same thing. To be
I
honest.
feel like you wouldn't have any issues there having a respect for it. But I wouldn't be using it. I probably wouldn't use it.
So, it is very funny though because we passed a municipal building that a buddy of ours works at in town that night, and something had tripped off the lights, so all the lights on the third floor were flashing. And so I just straight lied to people. I took a video of
I
that
remember you
standing outside it, and I was like, "Oh, guys, you were right. I shouldn't have screwed with the Ouija board."
I remember you sent me that. Like, I saw the video and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I don't know what tripped it off. It's the emergency management
that's
building here in town, and I was just like,
cracked me up because I saw the video and I actually hit you.
I was like, "This is too perfect."
You're like, "Oh no, there's something wrong with the lighting." I was like, "That's hilarious."
Yeah, no, it's mine. I've always said that my favorite thing to do if I got myself in some shit would be to no-sell the crap out of it, just like Brad Majors that thing to death.
Yeah.
Like in Rocky Horror when he's like, okay, here's this weird sex party dance. So, do you guys know the Madison?
Apparently, the original Ouija board costed $1.50.
Wow,
if any of you are
that was
wondering.
a lot of money in those days.
Yeah,
that's
$1.50, whole $1.50.
Mm.
Yeah, I found a copy of the original print of when it first came out.
Nice.
It says, "Every sale is our word of honor."
Damn. So, oh, what were you saying?
Oh no, I'm just like, yeah, I do like the Ouija board. It is such an American invention. I appreciate spiritualism. I appreciate, it hasn't always gone well. It hasn't always worked out perfectly.
Spiritualism. That was the word I was trying to think of earlier. That came out in like the 50s and 60s. New Age came out in like the 70s, but yeah, spiritualism was a big hit in the 50s and 60s.
Spiritualism actually dates all the way back to the 1800s.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying there was this huge trend peak in the 50s and 60s, and that's when everyone had a Ouija board in their house and stuff.
Yeah,
it says
that was the
parlor board.
Yeah, and it's actually in the article I have up. It says Ouija explanation point, but it's actually not called a Ouija board. It's called the Mysterious Talking Board. It says, well, I guess it is called a Ouija board in the clip of it. It says, "A Ouija board affords amusement for young and old. It's mysterious. Ask it a lot of questions. Ouija will answer it. Lots of fun and just the thing for parties or to while away the long evenings."
That's amazing.
I love it. Yeah, it's
to while away the long evenings.
If you come at magic and the occult with, not a ton of fear and trembling, I feel like it will change you, but I feel like, people come at it with this real sense of trepidation, and I feel like we were talking about earlier with positive, mental attitude and that, how you come at the world shapes and colors how you experience the world.
True.
So if you come at the occult with, oh, I'm going to use this to, make $1 million and screw everybody that gets in my way, congratulations, that is going to be your experience. If you come at it with fear, that is going to be your experience.
Yeah.
If you come at it with, as I feel like all three of us do, this is going to help me grow as a person, that is what you're going to experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And me, I've had some experiences where even doing ritual work, and some of it did scare me. I had some pretty intense stuff, but it's like, okay, this is happening. Cool. Where do I go from here? Do I stop or do I continue on and see where this goes? And normally that's when I usually go with the latter. I usually go, okay, I'm just gonna keep going and see where this goes. And usually it's worked out. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like leveling up in a video game.
Kind of though. Yeah, kind of.
Cool.
That absolutely works as a way of explaining it.
And I think that kind of goes for a lot of things in life. When you do something that's like, oh man, this scares the shit out of me, or this makes me really uncomfortable, and you go through it, and like, oh wow, that actually wasn't that bad.
No. Oh.
So.
Yeah, there's being scared is being scared and being challenged by something is a necessary part of life.
Right.
Continuing on with that kind of fearful doom saying like, oh, everything is going to go horrible.
Yeah.
Leads to things going horrible.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, oh, this is going to go bad. Cool. All right, let's do it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's about how I go into a lot of things sometimes. Is I'm like, you know what? Because you just have to face the reality that like I have to do it regardless. So let's go in.
Yep.
Be scared and do it anyway.
Okay, so on that note, Phantom Ocean, your band, just released a brand new song, Notice Me Senpai, right?
Yep.
And it's now available on your Bandcamp at phantomocean.bandcamp.com. You can also find your other band, what is it, Hidden Knives, correct?
Hidden Knives.
Okay, hiddenknives.bandcamp.com. Of course, you can find both these bands on Facebook. Just search for Phantom Ocean or Hidden Knives.
Yep. We are a little bit more active on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
So same thing, search those there.
Okay.
Phantom Ocean Band and Hidden Knives Band on Instagram. Hidden Knives right now is on a little bit of a hiatus just because,
COVID.
There was a pandemic and I couldn't exactly quarantine with my drummer from Hidden Knives, but because Phantom Ocean is my wife and I, Sarah, we could.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, you can find us online at thespookydoor.com. Find us on any social media platform. Just use at the Spooky Door. If you have any questions, comments, any stories of yourself or anything else you'd like to share with us, you can find us. You can email us at info@thespookydoor.com. We want to thank Drew so much for being on the show with us today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
This has been an amazing discussion. This has been amazing. This has been a really fun conversation. I've been really wanting to dabble into us talking about the occult. So this was a great way of getting into that. Ashley, do you have any last sentence?
I do. I wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to my friend Sarah Sanchez. We have a portion on our website where you can go and essentially buy us a coffee, and she bought us a coffee. So thank you, and thank you for listening to our podcast.
So once again, I want to thank Drew for being on with us today. My name is Jordan. With me as always, Ashley, and journey with us next time through the Spooky Door.